Hi everyone, my name is Rosaline Yoon and I'm a membership manager at the Association for Electronic Music, also known as AFEM. AFEM is a global trade organisation and we have around 290 members around the world in over 41 countries, and we're member-led. We have many different members, from booking agents to artist managers, DJs, labels, DSPs, royalty collection agencies and music tech, the whole ecosystem. And we're really proud today to host this panel on the hidden mental health role of managers and artists. We'd love to thank the team at Berlin Dance Music Event for putting on such an amazing conference. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have. And we're delighted to have some of our members on the panel today, 88 Music Management, Electric Pineapple and NOUX, and also friends of AFEM, Little Big Music Agency. And I just wanted to hand it over to you, but if you do have any questions about joining our community or being part of AFEM, please feel free to reach out to me.
Thanks a lot. So, my name is Marian Benkert from Inner Circle Agency, and today we're going to start talking about the hidden mental health role of managers and agents. And I wanted to start with a little introduction of everyone, so maybe let's just start on this side.
Thank you. My name's Trina Smith. I'm on the AFEM board. Do join up, it's brilliant. I am a producer, DJ and songwriting manager, and I develop artists.
Hi, I'm Alma Ernst. I'm a senior booking agent at Little Big Agency, and I'm a founder of an educational platform called Quite Loud.
Hi, my name is Madeleine. I'm an artist manager and a publisher, and I do that from my own businesses.
Hi, my name is Maria. I'm a co-founder of an artist management agency, as well as artist and label services on the side.
Thanks a lot. So, to kick things off, how have you personally seen the role of a manager or agent evolve when it comes to supporting an artist in mental health businesses?
Who's first?
Who wants to start?
We go on the same.
In my short time in the industry, so I've been doing this about 8 years now, and in that short space of time, things have changed a lot from the job description, shall we say. Certainly at that time, it wasn't part of the job description to look after the mental health of your artists. You also take on the role of many other people when you're looking after an artist, because labels tend not to develop artists anymore. The manager becomes the developer, the friend, the mental health expert. And as the years have gone by, and the music industry has taken it a lot more seriously, but not seriously enough yet, it's a real kind of, it's an everyday job checking in on your artists and their mental health. And it's something that we should all be qualified in, I feel.
What would the others say?
I agree, definitely. It changed a lot. I think that I'm really happy to see at a conference like this, but also other conferences, that the attention for mental health is there way more. I'm also really happy that you guys are all here, because I know it's the last panel on the Friday, but you still showed up and you're interested in this topic. But yeah, it's just, as a manager, you have like, and a publisher, you have a head of like, being a manager, sometimes also called like a psychologist, you're a mom, you're like always everything. And yeah, it's really important to recognize that within the artists that you work with. But what I'm really happy with is that not a lot, but there are a few people now that are like coaches that specialize in the music industry. So that makes it way easier for artists or even managers, because I had a burnout, burnout they call it, but it was like 3 months that I was out of it. And then I had a coach, and she actually came from a music company, and she decided to go into like the mental health part. And it was so easy to talk to her, because I didn't have to explain to her what a publisher is, what a label does, or what an artist manager is. And that was just, yeah, she really could help me in a different way. And I think that right now, more and more people like that are there. So it's also for us as a manager, of course, you're the helicopter view, and whenever something happens, like either you know the answer and you can help the artist, or you know where to lead them to. So I'm just happy to see that more people show up that can actually help with that, and that we can redirect them to.
Yeah, things have definitely changed over the last 5-10 years, and it added up to our routine as a manager. I also have to be a therapist. Like, if my artist reaches out to me during, I don't know, nighttime, I have to be up and answer and just like support him in every way that I can. So, and it's good that more artists are getting more self-aware and more aware of the pressure that is being put on their routine, because when the pandemic hit and the social media game stepped in, the whole life, it became completely different from what it used to be. So, and our job here is to make it as smooth as possible.
Social media has a lot to answer for with the mental health of artists and industry professionals. And we are talking about artists, but also, you know, the people in the industry who's looking after our mental health.
Hello. So, yeah, from my side, I've always been a group of people that were interested in music. So I've been working since 30 years in a business, but it was all growing naturally. And I, at one point, thought I'm going to be an artist. But I was very handicapped by being stage fright, and I could just not take anything that an artist has to take in. And so that made me be aware straight from the beginning of what an artist needs to deal with. And so in my approach with an artist, always a holistic view, and I see the potential, but I see the limitations as well, as I communicate them without making them a burden, and I don't blame them for not, meeting the expectations of the industry. Instead, I'm very empathic, because they see that it's authentic, that I absolutely understand what they're dealing with. And so this is how I can be with my artists over 20 years now. Sometimes I got them from the very beginning, and they're still with me, and they're big artists nowadays.
Thank you. So digging into this.
Oh, can I jump into that?
Sure.
Because I think that one thing that sometimes it's difficult for us as a manager, like as you said, like you have walked that road of like actually being the artist. And I think as a manager or as a publisher, like we don't work. An artist is a brand, of course, but that brand has a face. Like Coca-Cola is Coca-Cola, there's not a face connected to it. And whenever I work with an artist, I can step out whenever our contract is done or whenever there's something happening, or you know what? But that artist will always be the brand, and that brand will always be the artist, So the person, let's say, not even the artist, but the person itself. And that's something to be really careful with as well. That's why mental health is so important.
Okay. So to close this off, would you guys say that the mental health aspect has really become part of the role description in your daily jobs?
Yes.
Yeah.
But with limits. Yeah, because we're not trained fully for it, so we need to know where the limit is.
And saying that, what are some signs or red flags that managers and agents should look out for when artists might be struggling? And what's the right way to step in? So how could you be helping them and like maybe get them through a hard phase?
Can I say that I think for me it's never it's never the red flag starts or the alarm starts. For me it's really, again, I say it's not only mental health always is combined with the overwhelming of an artist, but there's also an underwhelming side. We always talk about artists overwhelmed by a lot of touring, a lot of gigs, but there is also the roller coaster of it. And I think as an agent, my responsibility is to be operating on the behalf of the artist, but also understand that sometimes sometimes I have to feed the artist to not be underwhelmed with in his own little bubble and I don't know, I'm making my tracks and it's like, so you feed them, and it's my responsibility, to be up to date and to feed them and to give them inspirations, to book some interesting bookings that might not make the money, but where they feel aligned with the audience, and they go inspired out and say like, oh my God, straight in the studio, produce a new track. So I think, it's like I'm not picking my artists up when they're already at the doctor or at the hospital. I'm just inspiring them before that even happens.
What would the others say?
I think it's a thin line between being a professional manager and almost a friend, because this is basically how any partnership with a new artist gets started, at least for me, at least for my team. So we need to have this click between us as a team and the artist. So because we're speaking about a full-blown partnership, and if we don't feel as a friends in our like spare time, what's the point of moving further together? So there's really no instruction. It could be pretty much anything on being the friend side of things or being a manager where you can professionally step in and, I don't know, offer new opportunities or just find something new that would make this spark happen again.
Adding to this, like you said, for example, if your artist is like stuck in his little hole, what can you tell them in regards to him competing to like the big brands that have the big money, and how he can like break through, or how he can like believe in himself that he can still make it even without the like big budgets around him? Like, what could you guys tell the person like that, for example?
No, for me, it's always an artist needs, you know, with me as an agent, he needs the time to brainstorm. So I think everything comes from there. And also what I wanted to say is I also have the holistic view, means you include what are they dealing with, expectations from the family, what's happening in their private life. And then from that, knowing all of this, you can give them a time frame. I sometimes just, you know, go with them on a tour or something, and then we just sit down. And it comes all from giving them the platform of talking about their ideas. I think a lot of times nowadays there's a lot of frustration, and all they hear is frustration, and then they compare each other to other bigger artists, and this other bigger artist comes and they're like, wow, really? I thought you make this and this money already. Oh, maybe you have to change the agency and stuff like this. So it's a lot of feed is very frustrating, as well as with the social media, as we said. It's very frustrating, but once you give them the time, which as an agency you sometimes have 20 plus artists and then you can't give them the time, but I encourage agents to give a quality time if it's half an hour, but they come back to life. It's like giving a plant a little bit of a better feeling of being this one plant in your house, you know. You have to nurture your artists and then hear what they have to say. It's like it's not coming from what you give them, it comes from how can you evolve their spark or their enthusiasm again.
Yeah, because I think as well, like most of the artists, like I think most of us also work with producers, or you know, it's like people that are alone a lot of times, and they're in the studio the whole day. So when they are on social media and they see all those artists like, oh, they're touring and everything, and then it's also like putting things in perspective. Like it might look like that on social media, but you don't know what's happening on the back end. And I actually had it with another artist this week that he was like, oh, another label rejected my song, and it's the third time already. And I was like, okay, but it's the same label that we're talking about, and that's the only label that we reached out to. We still have so many more that we can do. And he's now actually on a writing camp. And I also said, like, talk to those other artists, talk to them. Like, how do they handle it when they get rejections, or like how do they feel? What other labels do they talk about that we might not even know yet? You know, so. Yeah, it's just also like making sure that they're not too isolated in their own studio, making sure that they are out there and help facilitate that in a way as much as possible.
The managing expectations is a big thing as well, because we're in an industry where rejection is constant. And it's also an industry that up until recently, we wore the hustle culture and the burnout culture like it was a badge of honor, you know. And that just, for some people, they just can't cope with that. And then just to go back to the red flags point that you were talking about earlier, I think there are, you know, we're all adults here. This is a, you know, it's supposed to be a fun industry that we work in. If you've got an artist who's missing deadlines or, you know, missing meetings and is sleeping in, there are always going to be signs. You know, what are they doing? Are they out partying a bit too late? Are they, you know, are they expecting their A&R guy to be up in the toilets with them at 2 a.m. doing things? You know, there are all of those kind of little red flags, and you have to just kind of be a support. You have to be an ear.
That's why it's also important to sometimes join them on tour, for example, just to see what kind of friends do they bring, what is their team around them when they actually go on tour. And then you also see like, that might be the red flag. That's not even the artist itself, but the people around them.
Saying all this, where would you guys draw the line between like really being friends with the artist and always being available to them, while also like keeping your job and being constant about what you do?
Boundaries are so important. And, you know, boundaries, they're not barriers. they're bridges. They will help you build a better relationship. Boundaries on both sides, and I think it's really important to set those out really early on.
Yeah, because you said like being available all the time. No, as a manager, I'm not available all the time. I also have a life, and I also have to take care of my own mental health. We all do. So I think that's indeed like boundaries, like saying like, okay, you know, these are the times that I work, and whenever it's like outside of those times, when it's urgent, yes, I'm there. You know, you have my number. You can always call me, and I know when my artist calls me in the weekend, it's urgent because they don't call me just like that. But those are the boundaries that I set, that I discuss with them, and they respect that.
I don't know, no boundaries for me actually, because I have a completely opposite opinion. I mean, how big are your rosters? Because mine is just 5 artists, so I have plenty of time for each of them. But by saying boundaries, there are boundaries, yes, but only in terms of, I would say, I'm the therapist, and I would never get the therapy back, so that's probably the difference, which is another question, but the artist is getting a therapy from me, but who am I getting a therapy from? So, can I call you in the middle of the night and say that I'm burnt out and frustrated? No, I'm not going to do that. But other than that, I think it also depends on a lot of factors, such as roster size, your like attitude to your kind of partnership, the type of agreement that you have with the artist. Because if it's a full partnership, hell yeah, I'm going to wake up in the morning and just be there, because this is my money too. And yeah.
Yeah, no, I think I did that when I had my burnout. Like multiple things were happening, of course, not only that, but it was like one of my artists was in America, the other was in Asia. And I had the feeling that I had to be like awake the whole time. So I was working till like 3 a.m. and then I woke up at like 6 or 7, and then I could like catch the other one in LA and the other one in Asia, and that was just not doable. So it was sort of like, okay, from there, finding that right boundary. So of course, when they're traveling, it's like discussing that as well. But yeah, that's sometimes it can be difficult.
So from the agent side, it's like, I think a lot of agents are not on eyesight with their artists. So they are either above and acting arrogant because the artist might not be so important as the other one, or they are bending down and, you know, going out of the cinema because the artist calls in the middle of a movie or something. I think for me, number one is I'm on eyesight and I keep a strong backbone, and I always show the artist, okay, listen, you know, I'm on top of everything. You don't have to care. You go to the studio, you care about your social, private life, whatever. I'm there, but, you know, I'm working by myself, you know, and I do care, and we do talk about family, private stuff, and they do know they can contact me, but I think from how it is, it's on a, by the time I learned you need to be objective and not too much integrated with their life, because at one point they're like, oh, Alma is just one, you know, she's too much in there, she can't see it from the outside. And then comes another agent and says like, I see it very well from the outside. And it's like, yeah, I think my agent is more in the inside. So I always keep it objective, and, you know, I do know everything, but my role is more, you relax, you do your stuff, I do this, and eventually we talk. But I try to take as much responsibility, and I actually disconnect as much. Like if I'm doing a good job, they don't need to discuss every booking with me. I don't need to discuss flights. I just do it by myself, you know, and that's ideal, I think.
But I assume that you also have a close line with the manager, right, to discuss those stuff. And
actually, I don't have so many managers, but if I have, I appreciate it, because yeah. But I think then they take care of a totally different topic, and I do appreciate if you have managers in that case, but not the managers who are asking me like, did you ask this and this festival for my art?
no, I'm
Then
more
it
like,
gets annoying.
yeah, it's
But
more
then
like talking to each other, like, hey, do you see this happening? Like, I feel that the artist on the personal side, maybe the manager discusses
but we
that,
don't
like the
have that
relationship's
so
not going that good with his girlfriend or a
I
boyfriend.
think
and
that
then
comes with where I am. Most of my artists use me as the manager too. So I don't, they don't need a manager anymore, probably. They're like, oh, it's all fine, thanks.
So talking about the artists as themselves, can you share a moment, anonymously if needed, where you had to prioritize someone's well-being over a career opportunity, and what was that like?
I have a really good one. I had an artist that had a #1 UK pop chart hit. but he was one of the most socially, handicapped artists as well. So for him, it was impossible to put him on a tour with like all these strange clubs popping up in the UK wanting him to perform this one song with a singer. So that was a big challenge because we saw it coming up, and then it was released like, okay, it's the #1 hit. And I was going into a therapy session because of them, like, oh my God, you know, we're breaking through and I don't even know how to handle this. But then I didn't have to handle it. I only had to reject and say, everyone, sorry, sorry, it's not gonna happen.
I had it once. It wasn't like, the mental health part came a bit later. So one of my artists had an accident, and his leg was all like, it wasn't going that well. But he had sort of like, but I can still go on. And it was in the beginning of the summer. So we already had to cancel the show on that day. And then it was like slowly we had to cancel more and more and more. But he was like, I can still go on. I was like, no, you can't. You have to go into surgery and you cannot even stand. You cannot even walk. And it's like, it's just not doable. Like it was his whole leg. And then, that was like a whole process that we had to go through on like changing his mind, sort of like, okay, but we have to take care of you. And if you go too far right now, then you will go, like, then your mental health will go down, and it's just not the way to do it. So eventually we had to cancel the whole summer. And then at the end of the summer in the Netherlands, you have Mysteryland, and he was playing main stage. And then that was sort of his comeback show. And then Mysteryland arranged that the whole crowd had sunflowers in their hands. So it was such an amazing show. He was still sitting on like a stool and like with crutches and everything, but it was doable. And it was eventually, that was really good. But that whole summer, also for him, going through that whole process was difficult.
I had a producer. We said earlier about producers kind of sit in a room and they're on their own. He was always on his own. He was making incredible music. And then he just stopped going out. And he'd gotten so used to not being around people that he just stopped being part of any community. And I even had his mum on the phone to me going, I don't really know what's happened. Like, we just can't get him out of this cycle. And actually, off the back of that, I went and did a mental health first aid course, which is really brilliant and definitely worth doing. And the most important thing is to remember that you are not a therapist, you're not trained, but what you are doing, given the skills to point them in the right direction where they can find help. And we did that, and he's finally going out again. So,
what is that course? Because you mentioned
mental health first aid. Yeah. It's like you can do it online, or you can do it in person, and it's quite tough, especially if you have your own issues with mental health. But at the end of it, you have a really good understanding of how you can help people.
Yeah, that already leads perfectly to my next question, where I would ask, who really supports the supporters? Like, I mean, you already mentioned that you had to go to therapy because it was overwhelming for you yourself. So maybe you can give some little hints what you guys do to get along with all the stress that's also being put onto you by various artists. Because obviously you don't just have one artist that you have to deal with all his struggles, but maybe like she said, like 5 or 6 or 12, 20, who knows how many. So there's like a lot building up, I guess. So what do you guys what can you recommend to other agents?
Those specific coaches that I mentioned earlier, there are more and more coming up. And I think for myself, like really like having those boundaries, but also really finding the time to do your own stuff. And then also I try to do that. It doesn't always work, but I try to do it every year, to just go away for a few days, like 2 or 3 days, to really focus on my own business and where I want to go. And because sometimes it's so easy to work in your company and with all of your clients instead of actually working on what do I want. And that really, gives me a lot of energy as well. So I think it's a combination on like having that coach, for example, like it was in 2017 when I had my burnout, so it's been a while, but I still have her on speed dial and I can call her whenever I want. And we do our sessions like walking. We go to the woods and then we just have an hour walk and talk. And I really like that.
I think in our routine, running away for a few days is the only option, because there's really no way around that.
I think from my side, I like to then meet my younger generation people that I know, because they give me the perspective again on why I started this, and it makes me very inspired and enthusiastic again. Like just being with them, it's like, what's happening? And they show me mixes and artists, and they tell me everything, and that brings it back. It's almost like you lived too long in your own city to understand the beauty. And then somebody comes like, oh my God, the Brandenburger Tor. And you're like, yeah, man, fuck, that's amazing. And that's the same for me. I just always have to bring myself back to the first enthusiasm that brought me so far, you know, because that spirit should not be lost. Because otherwise you are one of the frustrated people with a frustrated artist, and then you are sacking down, you know, you're going with the Titanic. Yeah.
I think we had a good example when we had a meeting before that. Like when the plane crashes, you take care of yourself first, and then.
So adding to this, what structural or systematic changes would make it easier for artist teams to integrate mental health support into the way we work?
Normalize talking about it, because I think that still in the scene it's seen as sort of like an as a weakness. I had that once when I was talking to another company and the owner of that company, and then I was open about the fact that I had a burnout, and she was like, oh, that will never happen to me. And I was like, okay, yeah, I never thought that it would happen to me, but it happens. So you cannot say that it wouldn't happen to you. And even like making a statement like that, it's just, yeah, that's not okay. And I think that when you make a statement like that, you already are downplaying what the other is saying. And mental health, even if it's not visible, it is there with so many people. So yeah, talking about it.
How many people in here have suffered with their mental health?
A
Burnout?
I think also what helps me is once a year I talk with my artist about the recent year. But also what I realize is agents don't do that a lot. But after a weekend, I check back and say, like, how was it? And then I realize, like, they would have never told me what happened if I would have not asked. And then a lot comes out. And so I think it's always, you know, not to wait until it's full on. If I realize, oh, you were struggling with this, okay, how can we adjust this or make this better? Then I talk with my team, the advancing person. And sometimes the logistics, I think like, yeah, great, 2 bookings in Italy, super nice. And then it's like the worst connection and, you know, a lot of trouble and maybe a driver in Italy that doesn't know where the road actually is. And stuff like this, you don't realize that, and then you wonder, because then they just soak that in, they don't talk with you about it, and then it becomes this big thing. So yeah, one times a year, a big evaluation. How was your year? What were you struggling with? What was good? What will be the next year? Are you having anything that you want to minimize, expand? And then also checking after every weekend, they're on tour somewhere, checking back and saying, what did you deal with, I think.
Anything to add?
I mean, we sound check before every gig, or I'd like to think people sound check before every gig. Why don't we check in on mental health of our artists like it's a sound check before every, you know, big performance, or maybe even after? You can do your sound check, do your gig, and then make it as, you know, as often as that.
Yeah, even if you know it's a hardcore booking or something more, I check in with a small message saying like, hey, everything okay? Does it work well? Let me know. If not, I can even contact the people directly, you know. But I think that's important for them sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, we can even like broaden that to not only shows, but for example, what I do with my artists if they go to a conference. So before ADE, a lot of artists are coming to Amsterdam, and some artists, like I have a DJ from New York, and they are flying over. So it's a big investment. And then I asked, like, okay, so what is the goal for the week? You know, what would make this ADE successful? And they never asked that to themselves. Like all those years that they went, it was always like, yeah, just networking and fun. And, But I was like, okay, but what if afterwards I ask you, like, was it a productive and good week? What would make it a good week? And then right now I'm actually trying to do it with all of my artists to have a specific goal for the week, so that you actually afterwards feel like, okay, I got something out of it. And you can do that with a lot of different things, like networking events, even if it's a mixer or drinks with a company, and you're like, oh, I'm just going to stop by. Yeah, beforehand, just checking in with yourself. Like, how do you feel? How do you want to go into those conversations? And maybe setting a goal doesn't have to be every time. It can also be like just relaxing and having drinks. But yeah, I think that, and I do that myself as well, actually. Yeah.
I mean, sometimes the goal can be as simple as enjoy the gig. Because often enough, I feel sometimes people feel pressure to play some gigs, but it's just like enjoy what you're doing, actually, you know? So then, to finish everything off, if you could give one piece of advice to a younger manager or agent just entering the industry about mental health, what would that be?
Say no more. Say no. It's my favourite sentence.
Anything else?
Who's going to die if you're not going to do it? It's the music industry.
Yeah.
This is the most fun industry that we can ever work in. But also, it's the music industry. Come on, like, if you don't do that social media post, if you don't release a time, it doesn't matter. If you cancel a show every once in a while because you're not there, it's okay. And that's the same for a manager. Like, yeah.
What I always experience with the younger agents is they take everything very personal. And it's really, like, I can't say how often I say it per week, don't take this personal. And they're like, really? I'm like, no, it has nothing to do with you.
It's just business. That's it,
Yeah,
ultimately.
but
It's the
they
music
also,
business.
yeah, it's not related to you at all, yeah.
You need to get rid of all the false expectations that you may have about the industry. Like, I'm going to step in tomorrow into the game and just like manage artists, and it's going to be very easy. No, that's not going to be easy ever. And you, as a manager or agent or pretty much anyone in the industry, you need to be able to deal with your own stuff, because you're going to have to deal with the stuff of other people, and it's going to be a lot. And unless you're fine, again, the reference to the plane crash, yeah, you're going to be fine managing others. So.
Okay, thanks a lot. Are there any questions from the audience? Do we have a microphone over here, please? No, we...
Hi. Is it on? Yeah. First of all, thanks so much for your transparency. I feel like for myself, it's really nice to actually hear from professionals that are in the industry for long to hear that. I myself am neither a manager nor an agent. I'm a really good friend of an artist, and I randomly co-founded a festival. And I know it's just what I meant is, like, I feel like I'm in this leading position as you are, as some sort of feel-good manager and like the golden retriever of the group to keep them happy. And sometimes I just want to be the black cat and look at the glass and smash it over. What is your, like, in the moment, because I think it was you, Trina, who said, like, they have a face to lose, you know, like artists, if they don't cope or if they don't really do their show properly, it's their face that they're losing. How are you coping within the moment if you don't feel like wanting to do the extra mile for them right now, to still be there, to do the momentum? Because I do therapy, I do that Mondays, whatever, but what if I don't feel it in the moment? Do you have some sort of like coping mechanism for just the momentum to keep them pushing even if you don't feel it yourself? If you want to answer, obviously.
I think that's the point at which an artist has to step up and be there for the person that they're working with, because it is a partnership. And, you know, and I'm not going to let the ship sink, but sometimes I'm going to need to take a moment. And I hope that I've learnt enough over the years to work with artists who are going to have my back in that moment. And if I say I need to take a moment, or if they see my face and they can read what mood I'm in at the moment, they will give me breathing space. 15 minutes later, we'll figure out a plan. And it's just about solutions, I think, constantly. And you have to have each other's backs.
Yeah, I think that comes back to the eyesight. If you're on eyesight with your artist, then that is, you both can have the come downs or like a bad moment, I guess.
That one thing that, of course, the whole Corona period wasn't that fun for everybody, but I think one thing that I really liked about that time was that whenever you were on a video call and you would ask, how are you? People would actually answer. And so like, yeah, good, how are you? And when that whole period ended, I was like, I just hope that we can continue in doing that. And it doesn't really happen, but you can also be the example that does that. That sometimes you can also say like, well, I'm having an off day. It's not going that well. So today, just cut me some slack. You know, I'm here and I want to be here for you, but it's not my best day. And that should be fine as well. And if they're not fine with it, then they're not the right match with you.
That's it. I mean, you're allowed to disagree with your artist, right? And they're allowed to disagree with you, and it's a healthy thing to get through. So yeah.
And the most important thing is that you need to find this personalized approach to every artist, I think, is with one, in a momentum, if we're speaking about a momentum, it could be any method of coping, it could be like strict parenting, it could be friendly chat, it could be anything that works to fix the situation as fast as possible. And if it's not that fast, well, yeah, it's gonna be resolved one way or another.
I mean, practically, if I would be in a momentum on a festival and I could not deal with my artist breaking down or something, I would just outsource it. I would find another person. Seriously, I would look like, okay, who's looking more, you know, with a stronger backbone than me, and just send this person over to my artist in the worst case.
Thanks a lot. Any other question?
Hi, thank you very much for this talk. I have a question. So how transparent do you allow yourself to be with your artist regarding your own mental health? Because I can feel sometimes that us agents and managers, we're supposed to be, I mean, we are the professionals, we're supposed to guide the artist and be there for them. But as you say, sometimes we have our own mental health issues and we cannot be there for them. But I'm sometimes afraid that I don't want to let my artists know too much that I cannot be there for them, because then I feel like I'm not professional enough.
I think for me, it's always, that's what I learned in all these years, is that I mention it, but I don't integrate them. I would say like, okay, this is what I'm dealing with, but somehow, whatever I'm dealing with is, I somehow can switch between my private life or my own mental health and my business. Somehow it works, and so I just let them know. But I saw a colleague of mine that I shared an office with. She would really integrate. She would be like, oh my God, you know, and then that talk would go very long about what she was dealing with, and then next day the artist would call, and then there would be like, okay, how is it today? And I think that can weigh heavy after a while. You know, you're like, oh, I have to call my agent. Half an hour of listening, oh my God, you know. So yeah, I'm always open, like transparent, like, hey, this is what I'm dealing with, but I got it, you know. Don't worry about it. Like, it's I think that's very easy to communicate, actually.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the fact that the artist may know that I'm not feeling well is quite enough for them, because once you start sharing more about what's going on in your private life, you're not partners anymore, you're just friends, and you're just like throwing away this trauma on each other. And so yeah, for the sake of professionalism, it doesn't go both ways. It's only like managers and agents being therapists to their artists and not the other way around.
But find someone to talk to, you know. If you're feeling like that, don't talk to your artist, go and find your support system.
Yeah, I also think sometimes, talking about mental health, sometimes what I experience most, a toxic relationship with the artist starts with, you know, giving them too much information, but also kind of integrating them in a way where I almost feel like they try to make them friends so they would not leave them. You know, that is a boundary, like, oh, now how would you leave me knowing, you know, that would crash me if you are gone. Like, and I think that's where it's toxic and also not nice mentally.
I can totally relate to that.
Mm.
So I think we have another question over here.
Hi, so my question is, did you all, when you started off your jobs as managers, did you think that it was going to have to do that much with mental health? Or was it something you just learned by doing? Because actually you all sound like psychologists here on the sofa. And if not, like, what would you wish to change in the structure so that you could do a better job? Like, would you like to have like psychologists working in the labels, or maybe educate you as managers in mental health?
Yes, I definitely didn't know that beforehand. No. And what I heard from a friend of mine, he's not working in music, but somewhere else. And he said that actually his company provides people that you can talk to, and those people will get paid by the company, but they have like, how do you say that? They cannot like share their information with the company, of course. So like a confidentiality, yeah, that they're not allowed. I think that actually, when I heard that, it was like a few weeks ago, and I was like, okay, that will be really good. And just even like where you work, that they just let you know that there are options out there. And I think it's the same, like how it, for us, how it changed, and how it also changed at like conferences and everywhere, that mental health becomes a more serious topic. And I think that should also be within companies.
When I started, I was absolutely aware of it, because if you're at the nightlife, you know, everybody's on the edge. I mean, if I leave after 20 hours a party, I'm thinking, wow, and then the others tell me, yeah, we had another 20 hours. I absolutely was aware that something is going wrong here. Like half of the people or more than half are addicted to some drugs. The others have, you know, an escapism in the night. Definitely, everybody is on an escape mission of something in their life. And yeah, I was pretty aware. Like also the talks with the people after the party made me pretty aware that there might be some mental health issues.
I think it'd be great to have, maybe at some point, to have some courses for management teams. Because I'm seriously, I've been thinking about, wow, that'd be great to have a psychology degree. I mean, my university degree is translation, but yeah, I never used that in my life. So, yeah, that'd be great. Like very small courses where you could learn some basics or some foundation that is being taught in universities for people who will become actual therapists afterwards. But you know, make it music management.
I saw this, what is the, how is it called, Musik Institute for Musik, how is it called? They are having this, Initiative Musik, yeah, they have this therapist platform for artists only with a small fee that you have to pay. And you can take a therapist, and all the therapists are therapists and music lovers, I don't know how to call it. But yeah, I found that very interesting. Yeah, we have that. So that's new times now. Yeah, it's German. I don't know if they're all speaking German, but yeah, it's the music. How is it called again?
Initiative Musik.
Initiative Musik. Yeah, they sponsor it or they put the fund in it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
To finish things off, I would just say one of my artists as well, he does the mental health network as well for artists where they change the things, and I think we all agree that people should just talk to each other much more. And especially talk to their managers and artists as well as we to them as well. Is there anything you want to say to finish things off?
Look after your mental health, you know. Like, honestly, this industry is tough. You got to be tougher.
Yeah, I think communication is the key, and just get rid of any fears that you have in relation to mental health, and just speaking up about what bothers you as an artist, what bothers you in your partnership with your management or booking agency. Because if you're silent, no one, yeah, I have no idea what's going on in your mind. I cannot guess that.
You mean you're not a mind reader?
Yeah, I'm not a
Managers
mind
are,
reader.
apparently.
Some artists think I am, but yeah, I'm not.
Well, just to add on to that, I think honesty is also a big point, that people are honest about the relation and, well, what they want to achieve and what the real status is in general. Okay, so thank you guys a lot.
Thank you.
Applause.